wanted to take a few minutes to, yeah, literally 15 minutes, to spend just a little bit of time thinking about this big torso that we have and how to take care of it. There are obviously many, many things that you might choose for different moves that you might choose to help with this, but these are some office-friendly ones and sort of targeted more towards spending a lot of time sitting or doing repetitive work. So we're going to dive in. Would love for you all to join me. And we're going to start off in a quadruped position. So I have my surface here that I have my hands on. If you want to be hands and knees, you can be, but many of the things today will actually work a little bit better if you have a desk or something to put your hands on, not a rolly chair. If you don't have that, you can use your own knees instead. So choose the modifications that work best for you, and you might even choose to go back and forth between the floor and one of these other options. So to start off with, we're just going to do a little warm up. So I'm going to bring my left arm up and my right leg up. And then we're going to put them back on the ground. And we're going to alternate. Some people call these bird dogs or pointer dogs. I'm sure there are other names for these as well. One of the keys here is that as I go back and forth, and you can keep going, but I'm going to pause and demonstrate. I'm trying to keep my shoulders stable and my hips square to the floor underneath me. So I'm not raising up or dropping down or doing any funky twisting motions. It's actually like an anti-rotation exercise. So right arm, left leg, left arm, right leg. And feel free to pause at the top. Make sure that you aren't doing any funky twists or compensations here. And then put your hand back down and your foot back down. And you'll know if your foot is ready to touch the ground as you bring it down, you'll know that you are doing it probably pretty close to right. But if your foot hits the ground way too soon, or you have to put your foot back down on the ground, you'll know that maybe there's a little bit of twisting and turning there. Just one more each side here. Warming up the muscles on either side of your spine. We're going to stay here now. We're going to do a little bit of a cat-cow. So just getting that motion in your spine, forward and back kind of a motion here. So I'm arching through my back, thinking about having an arch not only through my lower back, but allowing that range of motion to come up through my mid-back, flattening out through my upper back, drawing the back of my head back, and taking a really nice deep inhale here as I do so. And then when I'm rounding, I'm allowing everything to round, including my lower back. A lot of times if we're sitting too much, the lower back has an arch through it a lot. And then that can get really, really tiring for the lower back. So getting that counter stretch in here. Tucking your tailbone under, tucking your chin in, and then alternating at a pace that feels good for you. So you can go back and forth with your own breath. You can also pause and hang out and go a little deeper into each position and take a few breaths there. It's all about listening to your own body. I do encourage whichever way that you take a moment and drop your shoulders away from your ears here. Think about bringing your chest through your hands as you're arching. Beautiful. All right, so another thing that we can do in this same position is a little bit of twisting. So if I'm going to take my hands and I'm going to bring them together underneath me. So I've got a nice stable base. And then I'm going to reach all the way up towards the ceiling as much as I can. And as I do this, I am trying, a little bit hard, but I'm trying to keep my hips facing straight towards my stable base hand here and not allow the hips to come into this because we're trying to get that twist for our spine here. And then I can switch sides. And we're just reaching up and alternating sides. Again, trying to keep those shoulders down. So if you have an inclination to bring your shoulders up, try to keep drawing them down. Beautiful. And now we're going to make the twist a little bit bigger. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my left hand, I'm going to reach down towards the floor, just as far as I can, and take a moment to pause and drop in a little bit further. And then I'm going to do that active stretch of reaching up towards the ceiling. And then I'm going to switch sides. So with my right hand, dropping that hand down towards the ground. Reaching, 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 like there's a marshmallow and I really want it. And then reaching up towards the ceiling. Beautiful. Back and forth here a couple more times. Beautiful. One more each side. Nice. All right, so we did a little bit of twisting using our arms, but I also want us to drop one hip and then the other to change the twist options a little bit here. So if I have my feet underneath my hips, my hands are going to stay on my stable surface, and I'm going to drop my left knee and my left hip down towards the ground. So I've bent my knee a little bit. I can't see if you can see from my angle, but I have bent my left knee and I am dropping my left hip towards the ground. And I'm going to switch sides. If you are using your knees or you're on hands and knees on the floor, it may be best to use a wall to stabilize yourself for this one. Hopefully you can feel the twist in a slightly different spot when you're dropping the hip versus when you're reaching for the ceiling. Back and forth at your own pace here. Nice. All right, so we did some movement forward and back. We did some twisting. Now we're going to do a little bit of lateral bending. So when I say lateral bending, I'm bending through my side here, but so that we don't have to fight against gravity at the same angle that we're always fighting against gravity, we're going to do it in this quadruped position. So I'm going to bring my left hip and my left shoulder closer together. And then whenever I'm ready, I'm going to switch sides, bring my right hip and my right shoulder closer together. If you were to be looking at me from the top down, it's going to look like this, and then this. But if your deep core muscles are not super strong or you've had an injury, that can be quite a dangerous position to be in, holding this position for too long. So we're doing it in this quadruped position for a little bit of a variety. Now, if you want to, you can experiment here as well, just moving your left hip, just moving your shoulder, seeing if you can get the bend to happen in different parts throughout your spine. So we could aim for the bend to be happening mostly in our upper back, mostly in our mid, lower down here, just by changing a little bit about how we're doing things. So let's all stand up now that we've had a moment to play with this lateral bending. And we're going to go for a super, super gentle bend here, starting off in my neck. So I'm going to drop my right ear towards my right shoulder, getting a little bit of that lateral bend. Playing with it, trying to keep ears stacked over shoulders. So if your inclination is for your head to come forward, trying to keep it back in line with everything else. And then switching sides, left ear to left shoulder. Nice. So now I'm going to reach down my leg a little bit with my right hand. I'm going to include my neck here, but I'm going to try and get that bend to happen mostly in my mid to upper back here. If you're feeling uncomfortable, you can absolutely put your hands on something else to stabilize yourself. This could be nice to do in a chair. Do the other side. Somebody asked about meeting stretches. This can be a nice one to do during a camera off meeting. Just a little bit of a gentle bend. Nice. So now we're going to bring the stretch a little bit lower. I'm going to bring my legs a little bit wider apart so I've got a wider base, more stability. And I'm going to lean over more. So instead of paying attention too much to what's happening in my mid and upper spine, I'm going to try and bring the bend into my lower spine here. So you can see there's a bend happening. And I can always go in and out of this, or I can hang out for a few minutes. It's all whatever feels better to you. We aren't trying to force change. We're just trying to allow a little energizing movement break here. Nice. And now we'll go to the other side. Choosing your own adventure. So choosing if you would like to go in and out, or if you would like to hang out in one position. And if you don't know, I would absolutely say pick one, play with it, and then another time, try the other one. Just see how they hit. Because if you're like many of us, some days one thing feels good, some days another thing feels good. And once you get to know your body really, really well, and you're practicing these things mindfully, lots and lots of things feel good. It's just the right thing for the right day. All right, so another thing that I wanted to do today is take care of our hip flexors a little bit. If you have a deep curve in your lower back, and I'm trying to exaggerate mine right now, but if you arch through your lower back a lot, that can a lot of times have tight hip flexors, right? Because we have that tilt in our pelvis forward, so these things are shortened, and tightness through the lower back. They just go together like peanut butter and jelly. So we're going to take a step back. Don't do too large of a step right away. A lot of times if you do a giant step back, then the bend is taken by the part of your body that's most used to bending. Sort of like similar to synergistic dominance. The things that are most used to moving, move. So we're trying to take a small step backwards. We're trying to tuck our pelvis under, trying to force that stretch into really this area rather than into your spine right now. You can play with angles by opening your hip and then driving your left hip forward, back and forth here, or you can hang out. If you want to intensify, I say maintain that really solid tuck through your pelvis, and then bend through the right knee a bit. And then if you really need to, go ahead and take a slightly larger step after that. All right, let's switch sides. So now my right leg is going back. I'm tucking my pelvis. If I'd like to play with angles, I'm opening and then driving my right hip forward, back and forth. If stretches are unfamiliar, or you're just feeling creaky because you're dehydrated from yesterday or something like that, a little bit of movement can feel nice rather than forcing your body to hang out in one position. Beautiful. And then the last thing we're going to do is we're just going to do a really gentle forward fold with bent knees. So I'm going to bend my knees and then I'm going to tip forward here, paying attention to rounding my lower back. And if I'd like to, I can hug the back of my legs or use my hands to hold on and pull myself into that stretch a little bit more. Try and let your head relax all the way down. Try and breathe deeply. And try and feel that lower back release as long as it feels good. Beautiful. Come on out whenever you're ready. Thanks for joining me, everybody. Hope you had a good time, and I'll see you next week.